morning, gardening friends. It's now a little past 7:30 on Friday morning. Time for another update. Since a lot of things have kind of been changing a little bit at a time, let's take a look at what we've got here. Now, I'm actually going to try and pull the top part off separate from the bottom because I've had several growing through. And there you can see, wow. Let me lift this up. And I hope you can see just how tall this one is. So I'm trying to kind of rotate it around so you can see it. So that's a nasturtium. This one over here is also a nasturtium, and we're talking, this one is green, or this one was in the green, under the green light. This was under the violet light, not ultraviolet, just violet. And the green is growing much faster, it seems, than the ultraviolet, which is just completely counter to what I had understood, but this is part of the reason why we do experiments. The bean that was under the red is not growing nearly as fast as the one that was under the green. So apparently with green, I can get these things to sprout and come up nice and tall real quick. Question is whether that's actually worth anything, because after transplant, that's what the bean that I had that was growing really fast is looking like. It's not looking very healthy. Now, part of that may be because of the transplant itself. May have done something while I was transplanting it. I do remember when I pulled it out, it was down to bare roots. So I may have snapped off a couple of key pieces of the root system or something. It also may be that it was just growing so fast that all of a sudden it's shocked by the fact that the light is different. And this is not a grow light. This is just a standard compact fluorescent light bulb that it's under. This is part of why I was thinking about getting a grow light and putting it in this particular position. This is the stove, and this is the exhaust hood above the stove that has the light, which I've been leaving on all day in hopes that that would help with growing. So I'm just trying to figure out what color light is going to be the best color light for trying to grow things here and having a successful little garden behind my stove. It could also be the heat coming from the stove when I cook things. It's not as much heat as you might think, but still there is some heat coming up there. So we'll just have to see. We'll keep watching this one and we'll see what it turns into. Meanwhile, we've got the experiment that we started yesterday. This one over here is the one that was exposed to the light, and this one's the one that's been in the dark except for right now. And since they actually look so much similar, I'm going to go ahead and put some kind of label on them. Maybe I'll put an L for light on this one, and a D for dark on that one. That way I don't end up screwing up the experiment and pulling them both out to look at them and then putting them both in the wrong place. So that takes care of that. The one thing I will say with the light one is I've had to add extra water to it, whereas the dark one I've not really had to do much. But it may be in part because for the light one it's been sitting near the stove, so I'm going to put it in a different location. Maybe I'll just leave it here. It'd still be exposed to the light versus the dark, and we'll see which one germinates first. Good morning, gardening friends. It's now Saturday, and that's my hot water just finished boiling. Final update for the week. I'll put it all together and release it. This is the tree. I just put a tape measure to it to see, and it's still at 11.5 inches. At least I think that's where it was last week. So it's not like it's growing by leaps and bounds, but it's still definitely alive. It looks like there's still a little bit of water left in the bottom. So that's 2 weeks on the water that I put in there, which I've put it up to the maximum level that I can see in the little window there. 2 weeks it's gone. I haven't had to add any water at the bottom. I have been kind of squirting it a little bit on the top, just to make sure it's getting a little bit of water at the top. Other than that, still alive, doing well. Let's check out the others. The herb garden doesn't appear to be growing that much more than it was before. I don't know how well you can see it, but and I've been putting it in the window and kind of rotating it and what have you to try and get them to grow straight up instead of off to one side. Other than that, that's what that looks like. Then we have this experiment, and you might be able to see there's actually a sprout. Let's see if I can lift that up and keep it in frame. There's a sprout there, but what's interesting is it's not, the top of it's not green, it's brown. Kind of like it grew up all of a sudden. This showed up yesterday. I forgot to mention it. It had just poked through the surface and then it got that tall in a day, but I'm not sure why it's brown at the top. That has me a little concerned. And that's from one of the 2 seeds that was on the bottom. Remember, the experiment was 4 nasturtium seeds. I set them up to soak in water, and I put 4 seeds in. 2 of them were floating on the top and 2 of them were on the bottom. Usually the ones that go to the bottom are more viable, but this is one of the bottom seeds. So I'm not sure what happened. I'll put the cover back on it. It's still got plenty of water. Maybe it has too much water, and we'll just keep watching it. Then we have the space plant. Nothing to say really. It's not, you see I'm going to go out of focus here, but there's nothing sticking out of the soil yet. It seems plenty moist, so we'll put her back in the window and see what happens. And then there's the light versus dark experiment while my coffee brews. No change yet, but it's only been a couple of days. The container that I've been keeping in the light has been kind of alternating between being in the window, where yesterday it was overcast, and putting it close to the stove again under that particular light. So we'll just keep trying to do what we can do and see what comes of it. That takes us back to the experiment we've been talking about the most this week, which is the light color experiment. And I haven't actually looked at it this morning, so you're going to see it the same time I do. I'm going to take the lights off, and you can see what we've got here. Let me see if I can carefully remove these. So what we've got is 2 that are getting rather tall. Those are both nasturtiums. This one's under green, that one's under violet. I think they were about a day or 2 days apart, and growing at roughly the same rate, I'd say now. This one kind of seemed like it popped up really quick, but this one's kind of looking like it's catching up. The other thing, I was doing a little bit more research yesterday, and what it might be, under certain colors of light, it will basically be starving for the other colors of light, so it'll be reaching up to try and get light, and it'll grow very quickly, which makes it very leggy, which would explain what's happening with this one and with the other one that I've already transplanted. This being under green, the other one that was under green, they grew the fastest of all of them. So if you want them to grow fast, put them under a green light. It seems like they'll grow real fast, but the question is whether or not they'll be viable beyond a certain point. Whether they're just going to grow up really, really fast and then die very quickly. The bean under the red here, that one is growing slower, but it's actually looking healthier than the nasturtiums out front. And I just noticed it looks like we've got another bean that's popped. That's this one here, and let me try and get that up into range for you. So hopefully you can see. Now that one's under blue, and I'm trying to remember, either blue or red. One of them is better for the leaves, and the other one is better for the fruit. The flowering and fruiting, I think, is what it was. So one's better for flowering, one's better for fruiting. As far as the leaves, actually, I guess it doesn't really matter. I need to go back and double check all of that, and I'll get back to you on that. But that's what this looks like. I don't think there's anything else. No, nothing else popping up yet. We'll keep watching these. I may be forced to transplant at least this one here because it's getting so tall that I'm afraid the lights are just, the actual lights that are there are going to just burn it. But that's what this all looks like. My coffee's almost done. This is the Budget Gardener signing off and saying, may your thumb, even if it's indoors, be green.